Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Hey Queen Sessions. Last week we spoke to Kai and Jerry, and Claire actually spoke to her again this week. She is a regenerative systems thinker, a poet, and a doula, and she spoke to us about uh, so many things. The power of menstruation, about the Kila Dada initiative. If you still want to go and check them out, there's a link in my bio. And today we'll be speaking to Rhianne, who is the co-director and senior faculty at the Shakti Shiva Academy. She's an incredible healer and works a lot with shadow work and the masculine and feminine energies. So I'm so keen to dive in. And Claire and I have been so eager to chat to Rhianne, and I'm really keen for you to hear her story and how she has come to embrace and step into her sovereign self and what sovereignty means to her. So I'm just going to add them into the chat, and then thank you for joining. It's so exciting to see so many familiar faces tuning in. I'm just going to, there we go. Hi, Rhianne. Hi, Claire. Oh, everyone.
Hello. Nice to meet you, Paige, and good to see you, Claire.
So nice to meet you too. Claire's told me so much about you, and I was just so thrilled that you're able to join us today.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm excited to be here with both of you.
Yay. Claire, how are you doing? Do you want to jump in?
I'm so excited to have Rhianne here with us. It's always such a treat to be in her presence. And I finally managed to catch you on Instagram Live. We can finally do some space together. But yeah, Rhianne's been an absolute dream in my life, and I'm just so ever grateful for the moment that she stepped in and the space that she holds and the bliss that it just exuberates from her being and her body and the peace that I feel in her presence, and how she's just held me and many others like a true all-being mother vibration. You know, she's really embodied that bliss, deep divine feminine mother entity for all beings and for life. So yeah, I just want to honor you and deeply thank you for that. I can feel my heart activating as I speak into this space. It's
Wow,
just so beautiful. So thank you.
beautiful reflection. Thank you. I received that. Wow.
So much excitement. I would really love, because I'm feeling like so much bubbling up in me, if we could just take a moment with everyone who has joined us, just drop in into our sovereignty and to take some deep breaths from the belly all the way up into the crown of our heads and just really root into our being. Claire, you always do the embodiment practices so beautifully. Or Rhianne, if you're feeling, I just didn't want to throw you in the deep end. I don't know how you feel about leading in.
I'm super happy to drop us into our bodies. Yeah, that's beautiful. So yeah, let's just close your eyes and let the screen of your mind be empty. And just dropping backwards into the black that is the vastness of our bodies. And then take a really deep breath in. And then just sigh the breath out, using your breath, using sound, using movement, to just release any tension. And then just continuing to breathe like that, deep, activating breaths in through a wide open mouth, through a relaxed jaw, a relaxed neck. We hold so much tension in our necks, particularly as women, where it's not always been easy for us to speak our truth, to be sovereign beings. So just keep breathing in through a wide open mouth, and then with every out breath is an opportunity to just relax. To just let go. To come home more deeply into these beautiful breathing bodies of ours. And actually that's all it takes. We don't have to do a long, complicated anything. It's just 2, 3, 4 conscious, aware, connected breaths. And then relaxation, letting go of who we think we are, letting go of how we've put ourselves together so carefully and so tightly, presenting something to the world. Just letting all of that dropping into more of who we really are in this moment, whatever that means for you. So one more deep breath together. You can slowly open your eyes. And my invitation to all of us is to remain connected to our sensation, to ourselves, to our breath, whilst we still come up into the mind and engage with language and with conversation, to just keep that 30%, whatever capacity you have, awareness in the body, in sensation. I don't know how long your meditations normally are, but that felt like enough. Yeah?
That was perfect.
Super.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, Rhianne, I'm so excited to hear your journey. And yeah, if you feel ready to jump in and share and tell us, about your journey into sovereignty and with the Shakti Shiva Academy and anything you feel called to.
Sure. So I didn't want to say too much about my personal story and how my life exploded and imploded, because it gets a bit boring, and it's actually not that special, because at some point, hopefully in this incarnation, it's going to happen to all of us, that moment where the opportunity is to wake up out of our identification with who we thought we were, the programs and the conditioning that we inherited through our families, the culture, the religions, the schools, the memberships, the tribes that we've identified with. And that's all of us, right? Every single human being on the planet, whether we're in male bodies or female bodies. And so essentially that's kind of what happened for me, and typically round about when I hit 40. So in the Jungian terms, it was pretty much a midlife catastrophe and awakening that was, it felt like my life, the rug was pulled out from under me. Everything that I'd identified with, all the wants that I thought were important, all the successes, all the material gains, everything just went like, and it was pretty brutal, and it was the greatest opening that life offered to me. And I can actually feel in my body the opportunity was there were two options. It was either to become small and mean and bitter and twisted and become a victim and identified with the details of my story. And the other option was just for my heart to break wide open and to become more of who I really am. And of course, I just said yes. It was like there wasn't a choice there for me. And that was kind of the first movement into my consciously, with awareness, becoming aware of just that fact that who I thought I was, everything I'd identified with, was pretty much the result of patterns, of ancestral patterning, of programming, of religious, of beliefs about good and bad and wrong and right. And yeah, although, you know, I'd say that describe my specific narcissistic bubble, as I have languaged it, as a pretty awesome place. I have to be honest, I've been pretty privileged in my life in many, many areas. And so it wasn't such a bad bubble to be in. But when we awaken, it's like that thing that happens for us when we are called to awaken out of identification with form into the truth of reality. Then for me, that's is a movement into sovereignty, because we're really called to take responsibility for everything in our experience, for everything in our lives. And also to acknowledge deeply that we are also the ones that are creating the world, that we're creating reality. And then it gets even juicier, because then here we are, the three of us, and then all the people joining the call, because we have consensual reality, and we're actually co-creating reality. We're creating the world together. And so, am I talking too much?
We are both so. I was like leaning in, even though I can still hear the same amount.
You're captivating. You speak so beautifully. You're like a stage. I can just listen to you forever. So please take up all the space.
Yeah, so that's the piece that I get so excited about, and is kind of what I'm interested in sharing with people, is, you know, that you and me, it's our desire, it's our getting really clear on what it is that we really, 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 really want, and what kind of a world do we really want to live in. And also that as women, and I know this isn't exclusively for women, and I'm also really interested in speaking to people in male bodies, but for those of us in female bodies, there's such an opportunity here to realize that we are the ones that have the power. We are, you know, creation comes through a woman's body. And it's so easy for us to be stuck in the victim, you know, as we're all victims of a patriarchal system, or products. Victim's not even the right word, products of a patriarchal system. And it's easy as women to blame men or males and to make it about them and us. And it's just not the truth. You know, it's really just not the truth. And the invitation is for us to do our own personal work, which is a lot of the shadow work that I love, because it frees up all these twists and turns that we've made, each of us has made, to out of our authentic, natural expression of ourselves, in order to belong, you know, in order to be safe, in order to be loved. You know, small, tiny infants, like, we needed to be cared for. We needed a tribe as children, and we soon learned the rules of our tribes, the unwritten, unspoken. We just got them really quickly. Like, you behave like this if you want to be acceptable, if you want to belong, if you want to be loved. And that's every human being on the planet, you know. And so for me, it's like all the twists and turns, and also all the times we've abandoned and rejected and betrayed ourselves. to be safe, to be loved, to belong. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It's a choice. We can really choose to live from an embodied place. So many of us have, in our traumas, and I'm not even speaking here about massive traumas and massive violations. I'm talking about ordinary traumas of receiving a disapproving parent's response. That's traumatic for a child. Not being seen for just who we are. And there are very few of us walking on the planet who can say that we were seen and heard in our totality, accepted as we are. And yeah, so that's a big piece for me around sovereignty, and around our power and potential as women, as human beings on the planet, to really create the world that we want to live in. And so that's why this is an important conversation, because we really get to see what is it that we really, really want. What kind of a world do we want to live in? And yeah.
Sure. I love that you opened with saying, I don't want to speak about all my, my past and my trauma and everything that got me to this point. That's so potent. You can see both Claire and I were like, it's not special. Both Claire and I were like, and at the same time, like, oh, okay, like, yeah. And I love that, because I remember saying to a friend once, I was talking about my past, and then I was like, but that's not my story anymore. And when I said that, I like really felt it in my body, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't, you choose what you identify with and how you identify in the world, and what you put importance on. There was a nice phrase that I read the other day that was like, you choose what you let root or release. And I love that that's how you started. And I just, everything you said, I had so many questions. But I want Claire to also share her reflections of what you just said. So powerful.
Sure.
Yeah, it's also so beautiful. As you were speaking, I was very much relating to my connection with who I am before I come into form and who I am once I leave form, and that has always been my baseline. Through whatever darkness I have found myself in, I've been able to connect with that baseline as a rock, as a space that holds me ultimately. And then it's also so beautiful to hear, how you embody your sovereignty by just being who you are and feeling how you feel and saying it like it is, and embodying you fully. And that takes tremendous bravery, because it also makes me think about all of the misalignment that there is out there that comes through in things like neuroses and addiction, and things remaining hidden in certain ways because of that very nature of it being so terrifying for so many people to embody that, because all of the programming that they find themselves wrapped in. So I just want to really honor you for gridding that energy of embodying who you are at the core of your being, and that it's a safe place, and that it's okay to be there, and that's the first step to really know that from within.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been my experience and my knowing that our bodies are the safest place for us to be, actually. And in embodying and incarnating into our bodies is really a lifetime's work, dropping down into the belly, deep into sensation, and opening the heart to feel all the movements of life, not just our own sensation, but so that we're feeling each other, and then opening the mind to emptiness, to that place before we come into form, before form takes shape and we become what we are, who we are. And I love also, Claire, you on your Instagram says, I live authentically so others can do the same. And I think, for me, that's, what else is there? Because it's only through the depth of our own being, in a way, that's all we have to offer the world, actually, is our being. And the ground of our being, is rooted in our authenticity, in who we are, without the twists and the turns. And so if I can live a life that people can say that when I was with her or in her presence, I got to be more of who I really am, that's it for me. It's not to become more of whichever teachers we sit with. And I've sat with many profound beings. And the ones that have gifted me, the gift is that I become, by sitting with them, I become more of who I am, not more like them. And so often, teachers want us to be more like who they are. And of course, that's not it. It's not it at all. And I also just wanted to say something about desire, about our desire, and that how when we're in form, so we've taken form, we're in human form, and so now we have the potential to create, and we're all creating. So we're either creating from the unconscious, from our unconscious patterning, or we've woken up, and when I say woken up, it's not like a one-time event. We're continually waking up to unlayer and unravel all the twists and the turns that we've taken, waking up to the fact that we're creating the world. And so that it's our desire that's creating reality. It's creating it's a feminine power. It's moving the oceans, it's creating galaxies, spinning the planets. Our desire is creating. And so it's really, really important for us. And here specifically, I feel also as women, because women, and this is a generalization, but many of us can identify with how our cultures raise us to be objects of desire, and much of our journey can be to become the subject of our own desire, to become she who desires. And when we really get that as women, and we get clear on what it is that we really want, like, do we want a big house and a fancy car and marble and leather and kids in private schools? Or do we want a world that it contains the quality of love, a world in which the more magnificent you are, the more magnificent I am. A world in which there's plenty, there's abundance. I mean, I see that in the nature around me. Nature's just modeling abundance. There's an ear of, you have a piece of corn, you plant it, a mealy plant grows up. It's got 1-2 cobs filled with rows and rows of corn. And we're all like watching each individual corn, putting them in little, trying to save them somewhere. It's ridiculous. There's just so much. And so what is it that we want in the world? Because it's the feminine, our desire, that's creating. And if we get clear on what we want, we can give clear instruction. And this is where the masculine and the feminine, and I'm talking about this as it exists in each of us. So my masculine and feminine, the masculine and feminine as they exist in a male body. So the masculine and feminine being qualities that belong equally to all of us. yeah. And then once we've got really clear, also taking responsibility. I feel like the time on our planet is right now is calling us to take radical responsibility for what we're experiencing, for everything in our experience.
I read this thing the other day which said that accountability and responsibility is what shifts desire into action. And I really loved that. It was that perfect balance of that masculine and feminine energy within us, that there's a balance between flow and creating structure and taking action, and that you need both to move in the world.
Yeah, beautiful. So true. I think my all-time favorite quote, if I had to just pick one, is from the Tao Te Ching, and it says, "She or he who knows the masculine but lives by the feminine shall be the whole world's channel." And I just, if I drop into the wisdom of that, it's just like, it's like my whole body opens to the knowing of the truth of that. And it feels to me like so much of the past, however many thousands of years, have been about the development of the masculine in all of us. Development of that one pointed focus of skillful action, of setting a goal, setting a target, and then moving efficiently towards it. And there's real beauty in that. And at the Shakti Shiva Academy, which was founded by Shakti Malan, she's left her body now, but actually Clare and I met on a retreat, a New Year's retreat in 2017 with Shakti. And Shakti speaks about one of the teachings that she's left is around the 3 levels of the masculine and the feminine. And so this level of efficiency and skillful action is the conscious masculine. And it feels like where we are at on the planet right now is as beautiful as the conscious masculine is. We're being called into the deep, into the birth of the deep masculine and feminine, because we can kind of look around us and see that uber efficiency of more and more and more profit and more expansion and more growth and better, faster, bigger is actually without the feminine holding equally as an equal partner that's not separate from, then it's a disease on our planet. It's become a disease out of control. And so we're all being called to awaken to the deep masculine and the deep feminine. And I mean, I could speak, that's a whole separate conversation, of course. But yeah, it just feels like an important piece. The dance of the masculine and feminine. And I think what I was wanting to say was that instruction, that within us, where when our feminine is clear on what it is that she wants and has done the work of that, then she gives the instruction to her masculine, to the masculine, who is the quality of the doing. Yeah, but I can share with you that it's really become apparent to me in my life, in my 50s now, mid-50s, that, and I would say I have a very well-developed masculine, and I think many of us on the planet and many women come to this work with a lot of mastery, a lot of well-developed masculine. But I just know that when I'm in the habit of my system, which was, inherited from family and culture and expectation, etc., of doing, and that if I've lost touch with relatedness, with my connection with my heart, with my connection with the other, with my connection with the intention in the first place of whatever it is that I'm creating, the best thing for me is to just stop. Because the doing and the achieving, it becomes empty at this place in my life when it isn't deeply rooted in the relating, when it isn't deeply held by the feminine knowing of what is it birthing. Otherwise I'm just birthing action, empty, relentless doing into the world. Yeah. Took me a long time to get there, but wow. Yeah.
I'm dying to hear Claire's thoughts.
Well, I just, I'm relating so much to the journey, and very recently, more so in the last few months, really coming to know my own masculine within as my partner and companion, and to be able to stand my ground from my feet in whatever sacred union I may find myself in, but to know that I have my inner masculine holding me, and that is the requirement of the reflection in the mirror that I will then find in my partnership, and how I will be loved and respected and treated. So to not lose myself in the reflection of another, but more affirm myself first in my own reflection by being in communion with myself and being able to hear my inner masculine, because for so long I haven't been listening to him. I've been hearing him, but I haven't been listening to him, and he's actually a crucial component of my intuition, which was something new for me to recognize. And how deeply loving he is, how deeply in the space of the beloved he is, and how he's been holding me the entire time, and also learning to move and allow him to hold me in bringing myself out and claiming space and taking up space, and that he is actually what makes me magnetic, because once he is the foundation and the platform beneath me, that is the place where I can shine from and I can move from with confidence.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And with the whole heart. So yeah, it's been beautiful to learn that journey, and I love what you're saying too with the clarity when we allow the masculine in, because that's also space. I'm wildly creative, and like I think many women, wildly creative women, you literally you feel like you're popping at all ends, trying to do 5 gazillion things at once, because the abundance of the world is just your total oyster.
Yeah.
So that's also raises a question for me, and because I know that you do a lot of red tent work, and I loved how you stepped into that space. We spoke about it previously, how you stepped into that space in the last one, where there was more of a knowing of what it was that was coming through and being asked of in the space, and what was present in the abundance of the space, but there wasn't necessarily a program, or there wasn't necessarily a thing of saying we're going to do this now and then that and then that. There was more a sensation of bringing in the intuition as well of what was being asked of you in the space and allowing that to unfold. And I have a deep question around that, as a female entrepreneur, of how do we then move in the world that we're able to connect with our natural rhythm, and not necessarily go into this hard, fast, burnout, exhaustion that a lot of us just kind of immediately run into, because that's what we've been shown. That's how we've been shown to be successful and how to succeed. And I'm much more looking for the more organic routes of how to organically bring oneself out into a full form in the world. So that's very much a question that's in
it's such
moment.
a great question, because it is the model that we've all grown up with. You know, it's a competitive and a comparative model. And that's kind of the model of the junior masculine. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is that the call for all of us on the planet, men and women, is to grow up and to step into the senior masculine and the senior feminine, the mature masculine, the mature feminine, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, however, whatever terminology we want to use. And to really start understanding deeply, from a deep place of knowing, you know, that whatever I do to you, I also do to me. And whatever I do for myself, however I am with myself, I'm also offering that to you. And this is a piece from, particularly from the women's work, and particularly, you know, when I was on retreat with Shakti, like, she had an incredible gift of creating a space, firstly, in which you just dropped into so instantly, in which everybody became the beloved. Everybody became my lover, everything, every breath. And then the other big piece I got through the women's work was that the more magnificent you are, the more magnificent I am. It's not a competition. And this is a really important piece for us as women, because in this patriarchal system that we've all been subjected to, we have an archetype which we call the women's union. And the women's union is actually the way in which we as women uphold the structures and the strictures of patriarchy. And we do it by criticizing each other, by competing, comparing, by pulling each other down, instead of celebrating each other, instead of supporting each other from the deepest place. And we have a lot of power there to really realize that we have the capacity and the power to just say stop, to stop doing this. You know, and that's, you know, goes back to what I said at the very beginning, that why is it that so many of us in female bodies on the planet are not stepping into or not realizing the power that is available to us? Why are we still in this this victim piece? Why are we unwilling to literally step into our freedom, actually? And it's kind of because there's a financial dominatrix that I follow. She's a really interesting, cutting edge, sharp woman. Her name is Bardo Smith. You can look her up. And she said something like, that as women, we have all the leverage that we need to unseat patriarchal structures and strictures, but that we've been conditioned not to use them. And we've been conditioned to ask instead. So we give our power away all the time. And that's our job. That's our task right now as women, is to really see that we have the power. And that goes back to your piece, Clare, about our masculine and feminine. It's like, in this journey of awakening and stepping into our passion and our power and our purpose, is that it's so easy to trash the masculine and to elevate the feminine, because she's been so denigrated for so long. There's this tendency to pop into the opposite, which of course is not really healthy, because they never were separate. You know, when we move into the third level of the deep masculine and feminine, labels become ridiculous, actually. It's really only for ease of conversation and languaging that we even have them, because they never were two. They've always been one. And they exist. It is us. It's our expression, all the qualities, all the energies that live. It's like life living itself as you, as me. So, and that's the invitation that we have. I think it's very exciting to be alive in a body on the planet right now. And it really is exciting for me to see how awake our younger people are, and how much, hope's not the right word, it's just like life is living itself. It's evolving. It's birthing itself. Like the feminine is birthing herself, whether we like it or not. You know, whether we're participating or not. And we may as well participate and co-create rather than resist.
I love that you asked that question, Claire, because we actually got a question from one of the audience members who was asking, Pam, asking, how does one cultivate feminine energy in a world that is so structured to be very masculine and move in a very masculine way? And it's something that I also really was confronted with myself in learning a lot about cyclical living and moving in flow and trusting your intuition, and you know, in terms of as a woman moving with your cycle and the different seasons that you go through, when you need more rest and when you have the hormones which allow you to engage in the world more creatively and more actively, and how to align myself and that flow with my consulting job, where you know, my managers were three males, and the way they did things was very like almost toxic masculine or junior masculine, as you said, like very competitive, very structured, very, this is how we do things. And yeah, I'm curious to hear how, you know, what you see in a practical way, how one cultivates that and this into their lives.
Yeah, you know, for obviously it's very unique for each one of us, but in my experience, most of us have some mastery of the masculine, and so what we're longing for is for the feminine to really birth in us through our bodies, and it is literally through our bodies. It's by being willing to inhabit our bodies, by being willing to feel everything. So all the defenses that we've established, that we've used to protect ourselves from feeling too much, the armor we've placed around our hearts, in our bodies, against sensation, against feeling pleasure, to protect our vulnerability. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's, if we hear now, our nervous systems have done their job. You know, the job of the nervous system has never been to create happiness. It's been for our survival. But we need to cooperate with our biology if we want to thrive and if we want to open and expand into the bliss that is our birthright, into the pleasure that wants to move in our bodies and be birthed into the world. And I can really speak more for beings in female bodies, but that means letting go of everything you ever thought you know about sex and sexuality and what it looks like. All those images and Hollywood movies and porn stuff, and how performance-oriented sexuality, and just let it all go and sit quietly by yourself. If you can do it in nature, even better. And to just start with your breath. Start taking deep breaths. It's really about relaxation. It's expanding into relaxation so that we can come into our bodies. And then really slowing everything down, because what we're activating or wanting to notice is the subtle sensations that are available to us all the time. Now, the bliss lies in the subtle. We're so used to explosive, dramatic, orgasmic, bigger, better, sensational stuff. And if it's not like that, somehow we're not satisfied. And actually, when we go down, 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 it's like going into the point of the subtle. It's like going through an eye of the needle, and in that relaxed place, you enter the other side and you just expand into the most incredible sensation, which then becomes actually very big, but it's not explosive big. It's not like putting all the logs on the fire and burning them up, poof. It's like a subtle blue flame that can last, and that is nourishing and connecting. And it's our bodies, it's our bodies that are the gateway to this bliss, to the pleasure that is our birthright, to the bliss that is our birthright. There's lots of comments coming through. I haven't been, I haven't been monitoring.
To speak to the comments, it would be lovely, in the comments there is an acknowledgement on how hard society has been on men as well. So if you can speak to, perhaps one of the comments was, how can men dive more deeply into their feminine, but to also how can men participate more in the space?
Yeah.
And also my question to add to that would be, for how as women can we also participate in that with the men, that it's not necessarily women holding space for the men, because no one in relation to responsibility, no one actually needs space being held for them.
Yeah, exactly.
But more how, in a better way to say it, how can we all participate in the debacle that we all find ourselves in?
Totally. I mean, I actually love that, because my heart just actually blows open, at the predicament of the male being, the person, the human born into a male biology. I think, I sense that they have had a harder time on many levels than us who've been born into female bodies. And, the thousands of years of resentment between men and women, the time for that war to end is now. And we're all participating in this. And I feel like, for male-bodied beings to come into their vulnerability is a massive challenge, given the way the ground out there lies and the models that have been given. It's an incredibly tender place. And when I speak to men, and in all the work that I've been doing, what I discover is that men long for the same things that women long for. They want intimate, loving relationships. They want to experience pleasure. They want to be safe. They want to be loved. They don't want to be manipulated. Women's sexuality is, we've been taught to manipulate our sexuality. Most women have no sense of pleasure or sensation from inside of themselves. They've learned to use their sexuality as a weapon, in the same way that men have often used their sex as a weapon. It's no different, actually. And the invitation right now is to recognize how male and female is just one expression of who we are. One tiny little aspect on the whole 360 degrees. And yet it's been where such a big piece of our conditioning lies, and therefore our wounding. You know, all of us have gender wounding. We were all limited by being born into boy bodies or girl bodies. And I mean, the invitation, there's also a lot available for women, right? There's a lot of courses, circles, meditations, new moons, full moons, red tents, books written for women. And there's a lot of, you know, women are awakening like it's a movement on the planet. And what is there really for the male-bodied being who is waking up to the truth of who he really is? I think there's a lot less, and there's a lot less support. And also that conditioning of expression, you know, like I'd say, if you think of, you know, as little girls, we're encouraged to be emotional, except we're not allowed to express anger and rage and aggression, maybe. Yes, I'm generalizing now, but that's, whereas little boys daren't feel any emotions except anger and aggression and rage. They're allowed to express that. So I mean, it's no wonder we're all so fucked up, right?
Yeah.
And okay, I'm simplifying things, so it's not as simple as that, but yeah. And there's I certainly invite male-bodied beings to go on this journey, whether they're with partners or they're not, but to deepen in intimacy with themselves, to become more of who they really are in the world, because they are a gift in this world. They're a gift in this world, and there are many predicaments. You know, I have 2 boy children who are now men, but you know, they were once boys, and it's been an incredible journey of healing my own gender wounding, being a mother to 2 male-bodied beings, and seeing the struggles, the humanity, the predicaments of their journey, and an absolute honor and a privilege also, you know, to witness that and to see what a gift a man who wakes up to his devotion and to his service, to his great-hearted loving through his male body is in the world. Yeah.
I think it's such a powerful conversation and such an important conversation, and I think it's powerful that there are 3 women on a call talking about you know, the hurt that men experience, because I don't think there are, as you said, a lot of safe spaces for them to say, I'm feeling this way about masculinity. I'm being told everywhere in the media, on t-shirts, everything that the masculine is bad. And I think there's a very interesting new narrative that is emerging that really, I think, needs to be underlined, is this fact that, as you said so eloquently earlier, masculine, feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean male and female. It's qualities that exist within all of us in equal parts. And that the masculine is, when we shun it, even in ourselves as women, when we are more leaning into only feminine energy, and it turns on its head and becomes also quite toxic or junior feminine, where we're not able to take action in our lives, where we feel a sense of apathy or inertia or depression because we don't have that masculine fire in us, and that we need both to exist in the world. And I guess part of the work, when I try to explain my beliefs around feminism and around this movement for the female, is learning to accept and love and empower what is seen as feminine, so that men can also accept that within themselves. because for so long it has been, denigrated and said that being feminine is weaker. And now there is movement to say, actually, it's just as powerful and just as important as the masculine. And hopefully, I hope that in this conversation, what it can awaken in males or in humans who are in male bodies is that an acceptance of their own feminine as not weakness, but also as a different kind of strength.
Yeah.
And I think it's so powerful that you opened with those statements, because that for me really is the kind of the key for this luck which has kept us in disunion and disconnect. But I
just wanted to point to something you said about that there's so much power in our vulnerability, whether we are in male bodies or female bodies, and we need both. We all need both masculine and feminine to dance together, to be in relationship, to be in conversation.
Yeah. And I think that even speaks back to that question around how do we cultivate more feminine in this a world that's structured in a masculine way. And you were speaking about, they're not actually two separate things. And it made me think about, in my own experiences of sharing this sense of wondering how to bring cyclical living into a company which is run by 3 men. And what I discovered for myself really was that I needed that dance of masculine and feminine, because for me to be able to say I need rest takes that masculine energy of defending myself, of standing up for what I want and what I need and saying, this is what I need, and honoring the feminine in me, which was the intuition, which was saying, I need this. And it was a play. It was accepting both and healing the masculine within me as well. And I think that's the other thing, is that a lot of this movement towards the feminine, a lot of women are dismissing or disregarding or neglecting their inner masculine. And we need both. And both men and women need both.
We all need both. And the masculine and feminine belong equally to all of us. It's got nothing to do with man and woman or male and female. Male and female is the biology we're born with. Man and woman are the identities that we've formed through our biology, through culture, religion, family, what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. And we can reinvent that for ourselves. And I believe we are doing that, in the conversation.
And I know with the Shakti Shiva Academy, that's exactly what you work with the masculine and feminine, basically absolutely everything that we've touched on. If anyone goes to your website, it is literally an online academy, and people can sign up for courses and get the support and deep dive into all of these different spaces that we've touched on at a deeper level. So I wonder if you want to talk more to that. And also to the meditation that you've offered. So with the Shakti Shiva Academy, Rhianne has a vast background in the divine masculine and feminine, and she's also worked with people from all over the world, such as Brule, and like I said, Shakti Malan started the Shakti Shiva Academy. And Rhianne, I was wondering if you can speak more to the Academy and what you have on offer with your courses and workshops, and also the wonderful meditation that you have on offer that we can have access to and our listeners have access to.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I lost connection for just a moment there. I really invite everybody to pop onto our website, shaktishiva.academy, and sign up to receive our newsletter with information about our online courses, our events, our retreats. And the invitation is to join us. At the moment, we're offering a 9-month Sexual Awakening for Women course, which starts mid-July. So there's time to hop on board. It's a really deep a deep dive and an exquisite, it's a movement of what we touched on, where the women's union becomes, the dream of the women's union is to become the circle of sisterhood as we do our work together. So that's a fantastic course. And then we also have a lot of our work is with sexual shadow integration, and that's courses for both men and women. And we work really deeply into our fantasies, our desires, polarities, ancestral patterning, the trauma in the body, and how do we work with that? How do we release it? How is it affecting our intimacy, our capacity for intimacy? So all of these courses, and I just wanted to be also to say really clearly that, you know, Shakti wrote a seminal book, Sexual Awakening for Women, and so a lot of her work has been, she was in a woman's body and she was on a journey, and so she shared a lot from that perspective. And we brought in Shiva and renamed it the Shakti Shiva Academy, because we feel it's so important to honor the masculine principle equally with the feminine principle. You know, that this past piece where the feminine's been denigrated, and we can flop into the opposite. But why do we want to do that? Let's not do that. And so the invitation really is, and we're busy collaborating and co-creating with a beautiful man, Paul Abro, whose book Sexed, Hardwired by Nature, Evolving by Choice is, I think, being published as we speak. And it's an incredible, it's kind of like the counterpart to Shakti's book for men on this journey. And so I'm really excited about creating we're busy creating a Sexual Awakening for Men course, where men can come together with male facilitators, because, you know, we can't facilitate this work for each other, because we do have unique experiences that are dictated by the bodies that we're born in. So right now, that's what we're responding to. And so it's very exciting to me to be creating platforms for men to come and do this work alongside the women who are already doing the work, which is not really work at all. It's just learning to fall deeply in love with ourselves and become more of who we really are. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I wonder, you didn't mention the meditation that Claire asked about. I'm sure people are.
Sorry, yeah. So there's a beautiful meditation that Shakti created. It's called Be Your Own Best Lover. And it's an exquisitely tender audio meditation, and will really answer to the person who asked, how do we activate the feminine in our bodies? How do we activate our feminine sexual energy in either male or female bodies? And it's an exquisite meditation of really slowing down, entering into sensation, and being with ourselves, accepting ourselves deeply, exactly as we are, starting where we are, with no preference. And so, yeah, offer that as a free gift. And I'm going to pass on a discount coupon code to Clare, and you'll do the necessary with that. And so anybody who would like to receive that, just go and download it and practice, enjoy it. So much of the feminine is just dropping into our bodies and actually doing the practices.
Beautiful. I really feel every time we have these conversations and we bring on another phenomenal woman like yourself, that there's so much we can dive into. And when we reach the hour mark, I'm like, but wait, we just started. We just got into the good stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing. I really I could see Claire and I were both entranced by your words and the way you articulate these concepts, which I think can be quite difficult to, as you said, the words are labels that we put to things that don't really encompass the fullness of all of it. And I'm just so grateful for the way that you put your words together so that people can
Thank you, Paige.
relate to themselves into it. Thank you.
Beautiful to be with both of you and with everybody who joined us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you profoundly for the work that you're doing and the space that you hold and how you are holding both masculine and feminine fully and equally in both palms of your hand and so lovingly, and that you have just brought us so fully into the space, which is exactly the healing that I feel we are needing, and inspiring us evermore and inspiring me evermore to see the true value of really connecting authentically with ourselves and each other. Just really truly does bring through the not only the freedom of humanity but the freedom of the planet. And once we address these things in ourselves, we will truly see the face of the planet shift and all that is going on, because it's so deeply rooted in these basic aspects of ourselves, and it just takes going in and looking at them, which we haven't necessarily been doing, and now is the time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for holding the space in your life and in your experience, all the teachers that you have drawn on and been touched by and been influenced by, and how the extracts have been coming through as the residue in your teachings and through your being. And I really thank you for all of that, all of the seeking and all of the alchemy that you have been a part of and you have placed yourself in.
Thanks, love. I appreciate that. It's been a wild ride, and it's only going to get wilder.
I want to say as well, I think you'll be so proud of us that Claire and I have been speaking about how we really think we should bring the masculine into these conversations. And we've been talking about it now. Having you here just feels like the perfect segue into having a conversation.
That's excellent. I love it. I love it. And I look forward to another conversation sometime. Maybe we can have a conversation about the Red Retreat and gathering at the river to pray and to play.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you both so much.
Mwah.
And thank you to everyone who
Thank you.
Loving you.